Hi, everybody. Welcome to the press. It is Masters Week. It is our Super Bowl. It's one of the biggest weeks of the year in golf. We're going to be talking all about the Masters tournament today, a little bit of probably of a longer show than usual, but we're going to get into everything about the Masters. We'll talk about our favorites, talk about modeling. We'll talk about the rules that you kind of need to follow to kind of pick Masters champions, historically, both pre-tournament and live during the tournament, and we'll get through it all for you. A little different setup this week here down in South Carolina and Myrtle Beach. So not the usual studio setup, but we still have all of the usual trimmings, great information for you. So let's get right into breaking down the Masters tournament. Played once again, as it has been every year that it's been played since 1934, although a few years it didn't get played for World War II, at the Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. Alistair McKenzie, Bobby Jones teamed up to create this club. Originally routed differently back to front as we would know it now, but this has been the familiar routing for basically everyone's lifetime that's watching this. This is a par 72 golf course. It is 10 yards longer than last year, 7,565 yards. Those 10 yards come on the tee shot on the 17th hole. That is the only significant change this year, although Augusta National makes changes every year that they do and don't publish. Most of those changes they don't publish are more subtle. They're not going to be easily viewed by a patron or someone watching on TV, but there are changes that you may or may not notice. 91 players in the field this year. No Tiger Woods to compete. No Phil Mickelson to compete. Those guys will be not playing together, neither of them, for the first time since 1994. Phil missed the tournament that year. He had a skiing accident that took him out of it. Tiger debuted in 1995. Your defending champions, Rory McIlroy. The purse last year was $21 million. They changed the payout to 20% of the purse, so more like you see for the player-hosted signature events, so $4.2 million to the winner. We don't know what that purse is going to be. They will announce that on Saturday. Remember, top 50 in ties get to the weekend, so that is the cut here. No 10-shot rule, just to keep that in mind. That has been a thing in the past. That is long gone. And then 750 FedEx Cup points to the winner. So let's get right into the betting odds. We only have a 91-player field. Brandon Holtz did not make these graphics because I have 30 players in each graphic. He is 5,000 to 1 to win. It's incredible that a real estate agent is playing in this thing, but he has no chance to win. Scotty Scheffler is 5.5 to 1. That number has ticked up. I've seen 4.5, 5 to 1 at different points this year. John Rahm has improved to the second betting favorite, 11 to 1. I've seen him more 12, 13, 14, 15, but I think he's going to see quite a bit of action this week, and for very good reason. Rory McIlroy is 12 to 1 with Bryson DeChambeau, who's won the last two live golf tournaments, both in playoffs. I think in years past, I would be more apt to just kind of throw away any live data as meaningful. And I still think that you could probably do that, but I think you are ignoring John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau at your own peril. This is a two-guy tour. Yes, I know other players have won on live, but the only two other players are Anthony Kim and Elvis Smiley. So, is what it is, but these guys have played tremendous golf. Yes, the setups are a little easier on live, but not especially, but also they are playing 4 rounds now. So I think the fatigue factor thing we might have talked about for the last 4 years of live golf, we can't really talk about here. Ludwig Aubert is 17 to 1. I'm really starting to question whether Aubert can close tournaments. I mean, we've seen it now at the Players. We've seen it now at the Valero Texas Open. 2 chances to win, 2 not even close calls in the end. You have Xander Schauffele at 18 to 1, who's been in the top 5 in his last 2 starts. He has come close here many times. He is a horse for course here. There is very good reason to like him, other than that he doesn't fit this metric that has predicted 19 of the last 21 Masters champions, which we will get into a little bit later. Cameron Young does fit that metric. He's 23.5 to 1. Tommy Fleetwood, 24.5 to 1. Matt Fitzpatrick's going to see a lot of money this week at 25 to 1. Almost won the Players, won at Valspar, has a good record here, is a horse for course. Depending on what your metric is, and everyone thinks about the Masters differently. I always care about top 15 finishes. Some people care about top 20, top 25 finishes. But either way, you still see that he has a good profile for this golf course. Colin Morikawa is 33 to 1. The big question mark for me is he healthy? He took the extra week off, did not play the Valero Texas Open. Statement through his agent said he's basically not ready quite yet. Does that mean he's capable of playing the Masters at a high level with that extra week of rest? Or are we fooling ourselves? Because he is a great horse for course play. He has been in the top 20 here all of the last 5 years. He's been in the top 15 4 of the last 5 years He knows how to play this golf course. He clearly likes it, is built for a guy like him, except for the whole putting thing. So if he's healthy, he's going to be on my card. If he's not healthy, and I really don't have a pure way of knowing that. I mean, he can lie through his teeth, right? But if he's not healthy, then he's not going to be on the card this week. It's going to be a lot of love for Justin Rose this week at 35-1. Already won this year, so there's some reason behind that. The playoff loser last year. He's lost twice here in a playoff, to McIlroy last year in 2017, to Sergio Garcia. He's had his chances. He can play well here. I think it's a little too strong of a price in candor. Bobby Mack is 37-1, had a chance to win the Valero Texas Open, has played well the last 2 times out, but really hasn't done anything else all year. Do you go with current form and just say that works out great? I'm not so sure. Hideki Matsuyama might be the opposite case. Played great to start the year, hasn't been so great since. Obviously is one here. Patrick Reed's 44-1. He plays very well here, practically on a yearly basis. He had a great start to the year, basically earned himself a PGA Tour card, quit live because of that opportunity. I think a fair amount of people are going to bet him this week. I'm not sure that he's the same guy that he was at the beginning of the year, because he hasn't played as much. He's kind of taking some time off. Last time we saw him was the T10, and that's fine. There was nothing wrong with that. Playing really well in the DP World Tour. But he likes this golf course. I think that value is not as good. If you can find him at like a 60-1, I would bet it. Chris Goddard at 45-1. A lot of people like him. Kind of tailed off after a great start to the year. That doesn't mean he's a bad player at all. He's an incredible player. However, he isn't as hot of a hand as he once was. Spieth plays well here every year, 45-1. But he didn't play particularly well last week at the Valero Texas Open after 2 good starts. So take that what you will. Brooks Koepka's 45-1, have been trending in the right direction. Of course, then I used him in Houston, and he missed the cut. So, in one and done. 50-1 for Victor Hovland, who has a sneaky decent record here. The guy I really love this week is 53-1. That is Minwoo Lee. You will see why later when he gets discussed on the list of 12 players who can win this thing based on that key statistic I talked about. Russell Henley's 55-1, having himself a very good, consistent year. Siwoo Kim, 55-1. T10 last week at Valero Texas Open. Great ball striker. Should fit this golf course. Akshay Bhatia is going to be a guy who's on my card this week. Maybe not at 60-1. I'm going to have to shop around for this. But he fits that 12-guy category. And the big question mark for me is, can he putt? That's everything Akshay Bhatia. If you can putt, you can win. If you can't putt, then forget it. Then you go down to the likes of Justin Thomas at 65, Shane Lowry basically at 70. Who had a good start to the year, has given up 2 chances to win. And he's played pretty well here in the past. Patrick Cantlay's played pretty well here in the past, but haven't heard much of him this year. Tyrrell Hatton, 70-1. He is a horse for course, but has not played particularly well in Live. Throw in like Jake Knapp. Adam Scott's price has actually come down a little bit. Jake Knapp, who does fit that 12-person category, but has limited experience, although he has played at least once, so that means he beats some rules. And then you got J.J. Spawn, who just won. And typically you would say, hey, you don't want to win the week before the Masters, but J.J. Spawn needed something like this. He had felt a lot of pressure to play like a U.S. Open champion, a major winner. You're supposed to be a top 10 guy now. It's hard not to live up to those expectations, to win like he did in a unique way, right? He didn't have to be the leader. He didn't have to play behind everybody. He didn't really even have to come from behind, just had to keep playing in this marathon day that was yesterday, and it kind of worked out for him. Sepp Straka is 74-1. Outside chance to have him on the card. I think that there are plenty of opportunities this week to bet some guys in like the 60 to 110 range that could be interesting. Many of them defy what I would typically say the hard and fast rules you stick to in betting this tournament. But I think this year there is an opportunity for some weird stuff to happen. There is no clear-cut favorite. Your clear-cut favorites are pretty well spread out for different reasons. They all have flaws, whether that's in your head, in their performance, or otherwise, whether it's at Augusta National. It makes a really interesting year. So I think you can take some chances. I want to go over our model top 10 here. Do this every week. Been doing it for 6 years, a little over 6 years now. And this model top 10, I don't think is particularly surprising given the year that's unfolded, but this does involve PGA Tour data. So if you looked at a Bryson, a Tyrrell Hatton, and a Jon Rahm, they might sort out a little bit better, maybe a little bit worse if you included their live data. It's just kind of really hard for me to, 1, trust it, 2, gather it, because they don't really provide it, and 3, know what to make of it, because you're playing against 56 other players each week, and there's no cut and there's no threat of a cut. And typically Thursday, Friday is the scoring averages are way worse because you have the worst players in the field. Well, you have that every day. You have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with the bad players, and arguably there are 40 bad players on LIV. So what do you make of that? I don't know. Nevertheless, here's the top 10. Scheffler, number 1, by a significant margin. Rory McIlroy, 2, Jon Rahm, 3, Xander Schauffele, 4, Tommy Fleetwood, 5, Bryson DeChambeau, 6, Tyrrell Hatton, 7, Ludwig Aubert, 8, Bobby Mack, 9, and Russell Henley, 10. Got to be a little surprised here that Hideki Matsuyama didn't make it into the top 10. I thought he might. But other than that, I think this is kind of a fair representation of what the market would think for most players. I mean, not everybody, of course, but I think that's a pretty fair state of affairs. Also kind of surprised Colin Morikawa is not in here, but this is a 2-year rolling window for a lot of it. So not the best last couple of years, but has been better. Let's take a quick pause here. I know we've got a betting odds graphic to show you, but this is something I just compiled today, and I haven't done it in the past, and I think it's interesting. And I've done this for our members at golfnewsnet.com. You can join for $40 for 1 year, $70 for 2 years, or $100 for 3 years at golfnewsnet.com. You get stuff like this around the major championships. This was just something I was curious about, so I made an article about it, and that is, who are the leaders in strokes gained at Augusta National? Who's been playing the best at Augusta National for the last 5 years? It's hard to get that data. You don't get as easily from the PGA Tour, and Augusta's a little bit more reluctant to give it to you. So I just did good old-fashioned strokes gained calculation, year-round versus the field average that day. How'd you do? And then weigh it all together, add it all up, total strokes gained divided by number of rounds, give me your average, right? Top 5, I don't think is particularly surprising. Scotty Scheffler is number 1. Ludwig Aubert is number 2, though. I thought that was kind of surprising. He only has 8 rounds, right? He's got 2 appearances. But what he has done is pretty good here. Again, my big question about him is, can he close, right? He can get there, just can he do anything with it? Colin Morikawa is 3rd. Patrick Reed is 4th. And then Xander Schauffele is 5th. That's a very powerful thing to me. Jon Rahm is 6th. I'll give you that one. But if you want to take a look at the rest of the list, head over to thegolfnewsnet.com and you can become a member for Golf Newsnet for $40 for a year, $70 for 2 years, or $100 for 3 years. So let's get back into the betting odds, rest of the field. Jason Day, I think, is interesting to me at 80-1. Jacob Bridgman actually fits the cluster of guys, that 12 guys that we'll get into a little bit. However, he's a first-timer. That's a problem. Corey Connors, I think, is going to make my card. He's probably going to be one of my 100-plus guys at 100-1. He plays very well in this tournament. He's a great ball striker. He's playing okay, not great, but he does have a thing for this golf course, and the way that he plays tends to work here. Gary Woodland, I think, is going to get a fair amount of attention. He's played okay here at times in the past, but the last few years have obviously been brutal, and that's been a problem. You got Sungjae Im at 115-1, came close here in 2020. He's come close here once other time. Again, not much to work with this year, coming off of an injury. Should have probably won Valspar, but didn't get there. Had a horrible final round. He does like the golf course, and that does stand out for something. I like Marco Penge quite a bit. If you want to bet him for like a first-timers market, those are out there, but not to win. And then Daniel Berger is kind of interesting to me. Has a decent model here, 150-1, and then get a little bit deeper than that. Brian Harman at 200-1 is intriguing to me. I like Ryan Fox a lot. I think he should like this golf course a lot, but we haven't seen that quite yet. I think Michael Kim could be interesting at 250-1. He's been playing much better lately. Again, I don't think a threat to win, but maybe look at him on a 10, 20, or 30. And then after that, it starts to get a little fuzzy. Nick Taylor plays this golf course pretty well and is a fit, 275-1, but we haven't really seen the Nick Taylor we know that's a top 25 player in the world. And then you start to get in the real long shot range. You got a lot of guys playing in this tournament that, frankly, wouldn't be here unless they won an amateur event or they won this thing once before. And they have no business being here to compete, but they get to come back because of what they've achieved. And I think that's a really cool thing about the Masters. But this last graphic of 3 of 30 players and then, throwing Holtz for your 91st player, all these guys are at least 300-1 or greater. I don't think any of them have a chance to win whatsoever. Just forget it. So put that to the side. The only one, and if you want to make this case for like a top 10 bet or a top 20 bet, I guess you could look at Zach Johnson, 575-1 overall to win. but he has played very well on the Champions Tour. He's now 50. He's invigorated by that, but this golf course is way too long for him, and it's going to be brutal. So good luck there. I just don't think that's really an option. If you want to get crazy, Angel Cabrera, past champion, played very well on the Champions Tour last year, won 2 majors, fresh out of jail and prison, I guess. And he is playing okay. He still has plenty of length. If you're going to bet a 50-plus guy, go after one of them and just kind of call it a day. Let me show you the Augusta National scorecard. The course, as I mentioned, really hasn't changed significantly on the distance, other than the 10 yards added to 17. There's not a whole lot to glean from this. This is from the Masters Media Guide. You know what the hardest holes are. You know what the easiest holes are. You know 10 and 11 are your biggest challenges. 12 is obviously unique. 13 and 15 are where you make up ground on the back. 17 is kind of sneaky tough. 18, you've got to hang on. It's a great challenge. It's an incredible golf course. You can't 3-putt here. Multiple 3-putts, you almost certainly lose. If you ever 4-putt, you're definitely going to lose historically. You've got to be able to make up your ground on the par 5s. That tends to be where you gain on this golf course. The 4th hole is particularly tough. I think a 6 is especially challenging as a par 3. Obviously, we know about 10, 11, and 12. Obviously, you know about 13 and 15 being an incredible hole. 16 is going to be your par 3 magnet for holes in 1. And that really kind of does the job in describing the golf course. It is obviously one of the great tests in American golf, right? It is the only major where you play on the same course every year, at least for the men. And it makes it more interesting to watch that way, right? Because you know what's coming. And frankly, so does everybody else. And I think that makes it compelling. Obviously, that's what makes the Masters. That familiarity helps you to define certain sets of rules about who can and cannot win this golf tournament, right? We know the easy ones. No amateur has ever won. Ken Venturi got close in 1956. We know no one over the age of 46 has won. That's Jack Nicklaus. He won in 86 at 46, right? Tiger won in 2019 at basically 44 years old, not quite 43 years old. So not quite to that number yet. I believe Ray Floyd won at a slightly older age than Tiger. I believe 44 is one of his wins. So, that once you're past your mid-40s, basically you're not going to win this thing. No first-timer has won since Fuzzy Zoeller in 1979, and there have only been 3 players ever who have won in their first appearance. Horton Smith in the first Masters, Gene Sarazen in the second Masters, and Fuzzy Zoeller, right? Then there's kind of the big one, which is there are in 19 of the last 21 Masters, and I would say Hideki was actually pretty close to this metric, a player has had to have gained an average of 1.5 strokes per round in the calendar year months tournaments leading into the Masters. So January, February, March, first week of April. There are 12 players who meet that criteria. Many of them you can figure out, right? John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau. Those guys fit. The rest is for our members at golfnewsnet.com. You can do this research yourself if you really want. You don't want to be a member. It's okay. But there are 12 guys who fit this metric. And again, 19 of the last 21, effectively 20 of the last 21. Patrick Reed's the only guy who didn't fit, really. They've won this tournament, right? So that narrows down your list from 91 to 12, maybe plus or minus 2 or 3 guys, right? You want to add a couple of guys or maybe in the fringes of that 1.5 number. Take out a couple guys, for example, Jacob Bridgman, I mentioned him. He's a first-timer. First-timers don't win. Do you include Rory McIlroy? He's one of the best players in the world, of course. And he's also the defending champion. There are only 3 guys who have ever successfully defended the title. Nicklaus in, 65 and 66, and then Valdo 89 and 90, and Tiger in 01 and 02. So to go back-to-back is extremely difficult in this tournament. You can win multiples, right? Scheffler's won 2 in 3 years. But going back-to-back is really, really hard in this tournament. So defining a player based on those rules, you kind of get down to about 10 guys who you think can win this thing. We've got some horses for courses, though. We've got guys who have multiple top 15 finishes here in the last 5 years. There are a lot of them. There's basically 20 guys, 19 guys. And the reason for that is, one, if you play well enough, you keep coming back here. If you win, you get to come back forever, and you clearly like the place. So there are a lot of those guys. And this is a long list. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Well, I will, I guess. It's the Masters. Ludwig, Corey Connors, Bryson DeChambeau, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton, Max Homa, Sungjae Im, Hideki, Rory. Colin Morikawa is your 4 or 5 guy. John Rahm's right up there, 3 of 4. Patrick Reed, 4 or 5. Justin Rose, a couple. Xander Schauffele, 4 out of 5. Scotty Scheffler, 4 out of 5. Cam Smith, 3 out of 5. Not playing his best golf, but he's in there. Jordan Spieth, 3 out of 5, and Cam Young. So a number of the names we've talked about already for various reasons. Course fits. This is kind of a tricky one because, again, getting the data from Augusta National on the specific silos of strokes gained is not easy. But these are the guys I see as course fits based on what limited data I have of all of those silos. So Chris Goddard, John Rahm, Russell Henley, JJ Spawn, Xander Schauffele, Gary Woodland, Sungjae, Nick Taylor, Bryson, and Tommy Fleetwood. Again, this golf course familiarity helps, right? So 2 of the biggest names in the field don't look like fits on paper, Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, but they clearly fit. They clearly like the place. So what do you do with that? Again, course fit is kind of a guideline. It's an affirmational thing toward the end of your process, not where you start and end it. So take of that what you will. Hot hands. So we have 14 guys who have multiple top 15 finishes in the last 5 PGA Tour events played. Again, a lot of the same names we've been talking about. Ludwig, Akshay, Jacob Bridgman, although most of his damage was in the West Coast swing, although to play well to players. Corey Connors, again, sneaky playing well, maybe. Matt Fitzpatrick, a winner in a second. Russell Henley playing well. Victor Hovland's playing okay, but on the fringes of top 15, like 13th and 14th places. But he does like Augusta National. Siwoo Kim played well last week. Min Woo Lee played well again in Houston, a tournament he liked last year, enough to finish runner-ups, 3rd this year, so playing in good form and just has had a great year. Bobby Mack's been playing better lately, but not fabulously. Xander Schauffele has been playing very well, close to the players, close to Valspar. Both are ball striking tests. Likes this golf course. I think you should probably bet him this week. Spieth, Straka, and Sahith Theegala, who played well in Houston to get his second top 15 finish in this stretch of 5 tournaments. I'm not going to bet Sahith, but I wouldn't be shocked if he plays well. Past champions, we've mentioned this. McIlroy's the defending champion. Scheffler's won 2 of the last 3 with John Rahm in between. Hideki Matsuyama in 2021. Dustin Johnson in November 2020, which, yes, he still has a green jacket, but was a completely different golf course that week. And then Tiger Woods in 2019. Probably the greatest Masters if you are a Gen Z person. If you are a millennial or older like me, you probably still think it's 1986. Short-term form, we've got a lot of players who are playing well. And we just kind of went over all of them. The list would be, frankly, too long to make it worth your time. So we kind of shortened that one up this week. But if you're trying to look for players who are doing well in the here and now, you're looking for guys who have good form, right? We've talked about this already, right? The metric to look at to define a Masters winner is, are you playing well in the first 3 months of the year, right? Playing pretty consistently over that period. That typically defines your Masters winner. When we look at short-term form, we're looking at the last 10 PGA Tour events played. Of those that you played, how well did you do? And that isn't bad, right? I mean, there's only been 13 PGA Tour events so far this year. So this isn't going to quite cover it. It's not going to cover the first few events of the year. But it's worth talking about. So guys who qualify under the approach criteria in the last 10 PGA Tour events played, so gaining at least 0.6 strokes gained on the approach per round. In order, Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka, Adam Scott, Daniel Berger, Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose, Akshay Bhatia, Colin Morikawa, Siwoo Kim, Ryan Gerard, Cameron Young, Corey Connors, Kurt Kitayama, and JJ Spawn. And JJ Spawn one does include the Texas Open, so that helped him out a fair amount, but he's been playing really well in the approach for most of the years. It's been the putting that's been really, really bad. I keep approach separate. That's kind of a lot's going right. Not everything that has to go right in your game to be good on the approach, but if something's going wrong, you might be able to correct that faster than approach. Approach, if you're not a good approach player, you're kind of screwed on the PGA Tour, to be honest. It's hard to be consistently good if you're not a good approach player. in terms of strokes gained on total. So we're looking at better than 1.4 strokes gained per round in whatever portion of the last 10 PGA Tour events you played. Jacob Bridgman, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, Akshay Bhatia, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ludwig Aubert, Cam Young, Scotty Scheffler, Bobby Mack, Minwoo Lee, and Tommy Fleetwood. Xander Schauffele just short of that mark. And then quality strokes gained, for those of you who aren't regular watchers or listeners of this show, that is the measure of strokes gained multiplied by a factor created by the value of your competition as measured by the number of points to the winner in your fields in the official World Golf ranking. So if you're gaining more than 1 point, let's say 6 quality strokes gained per round, you're gaining on the field well, and you're playing decent competition. So in order, those guys, Rory McIlroy, Jacob Bridgman, Colin Morikawa, Akshay Bhatia, Cam Young gets a lot of love for the win at the Players for 80 points for first. Ludwig Aubert, Matt Fitzpatrick, Scotty Scheffler was surprisingly kind of down on that list and almost doesn't quite qualify for the total, but does very much qualify quality strokes gained because he's playing great fields. Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele, Minwoo Lee, Bobby Mack, Russell Henley, and that is our list. So there's your kind of players in the short-term form. Now this graphic really looks at our strokes gained tee to green leaders in the last 30 events played with low variance. So players who are playing well, consistently well tee to green, but they're smooth, right? They always do this. They do this consistently. There's not a lot of ups and downs. It's a smooth curve, which is what you're kind of looking for here. You're looking for consistency. Scotty Scheffler, Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, Siwoo Kim, Cameron Young, Colin Morikawa, and Kurt Kitayama. Then, for those of you who love those derivative bets, we have a lot of players who qualify for this metric that we show every single week, which is in the last 50 events played on the PGA Tour, of those that you played, did you finish in the top 20, 45% of the time or greater? There are a lot of players who fit this criteria, and I think some of them are worth betting on 20s and 10s. You got Victor Hovland's going to get you a decent price. Shane Lowry will get you a decent price. I think Jacob Bridgman is worth it to bet on a derivative, but to not win, right? First-timers just don't do it. You're not going to get a lot of love for Chris Gotterup because he has so much juice on him. Same for Matt Fitzpatrick. If you look at like a Siwoo Kim, you might get a decent price. Certainly Corey Connors is going to get you a decent price on a 10 or a 20. I think he's absolutely worth a play on an each way bet. Win either top 5 or top 7, top 10, depending on the book. Bet those both equally, right? 2 bets, try to make it work. And then no really other value here. Maybe Bobby Mack at 54%, but that's kind of everything related to that. So that is everything heading into the Masters tournament. The one thing I want you to keep in mind that you need to be in the top 10 after the first round of the Masters. 30 of the last 31 Masters champions were in the top 10 in ties after round 1. And the only guy of the last 31 that wasn't is last year's champion, Rory McIlroy. So typically you want to be in the top 10 after round 1. It is very hard to move up the leaderboard enough past that top 10, 12 guys to get up to the top and win this thing. It's just hard to move that quickly in 54 holes. It just is at Augusta National. I know the winning scores tend to be anywhere. It's been 11 under the last 2 years. We've seen higher number, 14, 15 under par, but those tend to happen in little chunks. It's hard to shoot 4 rounds in the 60s at the Masters. There have only been a few people who have ever done it, Cam Smith being one of them, and he didn't even win. So you're not going to shoot typically 4 rounds in the 60s. You're going to have like 68, 68, 69, 70. That's going to be how you get there. 68, 67, 68, 71, something like that. So knowing after round 1, and McIlroy was even par after round 1 last year. So I think 15th or something like that, but not far off from that top 10, couple strokes away. But still, you got to be in at least the top. I think top 12 is your harbinger. So if you have tickets on guys that are in that top 12, hold on to it. If you don't, maybe you decide to kind of balance that out in live bet a little bit, get some opportunities. But you got to try to make those choices soon. The books know the history. Do not mess around. This is the most bet golf tournament in the world. The books know the rules just the same as you and I, and that means you've got to be smart about this. All right? So have a great week. Do really well. Show me those winning tickets when you're doing it. Can't wait to do it with you. It's my favorite week of the year. You get a hold of me, Ryan at thegolfnewsnet.com. I'm on social media at Ryan Ballingy or Ryan Ballingy Golf. Join Golf Newsnet for $40 a year, $70 for 2 years, or $100 for 3 years at golfnewsnet.com. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Good luck with all of your bets this week. Happy to talk to you about further questions, whether it's in the comments or over email or over on social media. Let's make this a great week, whether you're going to put money on the line, whether you're going to play in a Masters pool, you got a Calcutta, one and done, whatever it is. Let's make this one of the best weeks of the year. Talk to you later right here on The Press.